A complete stranger didn't hesitate to throw himself in front of a bullet to save a 7-year-old boy. But what happened just 30 minutes later at the hospital shocked everyone who witnessed it. Within half an hour, over 200 Hell's Angels from 3 different states had completely surrounded the medical center, their engines roaring like thunder as they formed an impenetrable wall of leather and chrome. But why would the most feared motorcycle club in America drop everything and race to protect one man who wasn't even a member anymore? The morning sun cuts through the smog hanging over East Los Angeles, slicing clean through the dirty cotton haze, casting long shadows between the cramped apartment buildings where children's laughter mingles with the distant hum of traffic on the 101. 7-year-old Marcus Delgado clutches his Spider-Man backpack tighter as he walks beside his mother Carmen, her work uniform still crisp despite the early hour. The scent of her vanilla perfume mixing with the aroma of fresh tortillas from the corner market. "Mijo, remember what Mama always tells you," she whispers, kneeling down to adjust his collar with hands that smell like the industrial soap from the hotel where she cleans rooms 12 hours a day. "If you hear loud noises, you get small, okay?" Marcus nods solemnly, his dark eyes reflecting an understanding no child should possess. But in this neighborhood, wisdom comes early or not at all. 3 blocks away, Thomas Rivera laces up his worn running shoes on the front steps of his small house, the wood creaking under his weight as morning dew dampens the concrete. Coffee aromas escape from his kitchen window where Maria hums an old Mexican lullaby, the same one she used to sing to their son David before the streets claimed him 5 years ago. Thomas's calloused fingers trace the faded photo in his wallet. David, in his Little League uniform, gap-toothed smile brighter than the California sun, before tucking it back into his pocket next to his heart. "Be careful out there," Maria calls from the doorway, her voice carrying the weight of a woman who has already buried one piece of her soul. "Always am, mi amor," Thomas replies, though they both know that in this neighborhood, careful is just another word for hopeful. The morning air tastes of exhaust and dreams deferred as Thomas begins his run, his feet finding their familiar rhythm on cracked sidewalks that tell stories of 1,000 broken promises. He passes the playground where he coaches Little League on weekends, the swings still damp with dew, the chain-link fence wrapped with plastic flowers, marking the spot where another child fell to senseless violence just months before. Each step carries him deeper into memories he tries to outrun. But never can David's funeral, the weight of that tiny coffin, the way Maria's tears carried the bitter essence of sorrow when he kissed them away in the darkness of their bedroom. The neighborhood watches him run, this quiet man who fixes broken playground equipment without being asked, who stands between teenagers and trouble whenever possible, who has chosen to fight a different kind of battle than the one that claimed his son. The morning unfolds like any other until it doesn't. Marcus is skipping ahead of his mother, counting the cracks in the sidewalk like stepping stones across an imaginary river, when the black sedan rolls up with windows tinted dark as midnight. Tea-burning rubber permeates the air as it screeches to a halt, and Carmen's scream shatters the morning quiet with crystalline sharpness. "Marcus, run!" But the boy freezes, his small body trembling as a man emerges from the passenger seat, his face twisted with rage and something else, desperation, maybe, or madness born from accumulated bad choices. The gun in his hand catches the sunlight, cold steel, reflecting the horror in Marcus's eyes as time stretches like taffy, each second an eternity of terror that will change everything for everyone who witnesses what happens next. Thomas rounds the corner at that exact moment, his morning jog interrupted by Carmen's screams, and something ancient and protective awakens in his chest like a sleeping giant stirring to consciousness. The scene unfolds in slow motion, the gunman's finger tightening on the trigger, Marcus's face frozen in pure terror, Carmen's anguished wail echoing off the apartment walls like a prayer desperate for an answer. Without thinking, without calculating odds or consequences, Thomas launches himself forward, his body moving with the fluid grace of a man who has nothing left to lose except the chance to save what his own son never could be saved from. "Hey!" he shouts, his voice cutting through the morning air like thunder, and the gunman's attention shifts just as Thomas throws himself between the barrel and the boy. The bullet enters Thomas's shoulder with the sound of meat hitting concrete, the impact spinning him around as he wraps his arms around Marcus, shielding the child's body with his own. Gunpowder and blood hang heavy around Marcus's tear-soaked hair as Thomas whispers, "It's okay, mijo. It's okay." Even as fire spreads through his chest and darkness creeps in from the edges of his vision. The gunman panics, his face draining of color as he realizes what he's done. This wasn't supposed to happen. This man wasn't supposed to be here, and the sedan tears away with a screech of tires, leaving behind only the acrid smell of rubber and the sound of Carmen sobbing as she cradles both her son and the stranger who saved him. In the distance, emergency sirens begin their approach. The mechanical wail grows louder as neighbors emerge from their apartments, faces marked with that particular reverence found only in witnesses to miracles. Mrs. Rodriguez, from apartment 3B, crosses herself and whispers prayers in rapid Spanish, while old man Santos takes off his baseball cap and holds it against his chest like he's watching a funeral procession pass by. Thomas feels his strength ebbing as paramedics work over him, their voices urgent but distant, like sounds heard underwater. The world tilts sideways, colors merging and swirling in rain-soaked confusion. But through it all, he keeps his focus on Marcus's face alive, whole, possessed the radiant beauty of salvation. "What's your name, sir?" one paramedic asks, pressing gauze against the wound that pulses with each heartbeat, and Thomas can taste copper and salt on his tongue as he struggles to speak. The ambulance doors slam shut with the finality of a coffin closing, but this time it's different. This time, someone is going home to their family instead of being carried away from them. "Thomas," he manages to whisper, his voice barely audible over the chaos of sirens and shouted medical terms. "Thomas Rivera." The name means nothing to the paramedics working to keep his blood inside his body, nothing to the gathering crowd that watches the ambulance disappear into traffic. But somewhere across the city, in garages and clubhouses and dive bars, where men with leather jackets and scarred knuckles gather to remember brothers lost and found, that name carries the weight of gold, of blood, of brotherhood forged in steel and sealed with loyalty that time cannot break. And soon the word will race through a network of bonds stronger than family. As Thomas fought for consciousness in the ambulance, word of what happened was already spreading through a network that never sleeps. The first call comes 15 minutes after the ambulance doors slam shut, the shrill ring of a cell phone cutting through the antiseptic silence of Mercy General Hospital's trauma wing. Miguel Diesel Sandoval is 3 beers deep into his morning at the Rusty Chain when his phone buzzes with a text that makes his work-worn hands tremble with autumn leaf fragility. "Tombstone down. Shot saving a kid. Mercy General." The beer bottle slips from his fingers, shattering on the concrete floor in a spray of amber and foam. And suddenly the garage falls silent, except for the distant rumble of Highway 10. "Jesus Christ," Diesel breathes, his voice cracking with weathered roughness as memories crash over him. Thomas Rivera, the brother who walked away from the life, but never walked away from the love. The man who chose family over colors, but never broke the sacred bonds that mattered most. Tombstone, they called him back in the day, not because he was violent, but because he was solid as stone, unshakable in his loyalty, the kind of man who would take a bullet for a stranger's child, because that's what real men do. Almost immediately, the communication network ignites across Southern California, spreading with unstoppable speed through dry brush territory. Chapter presidents from Riverside to San Diego drop everything: breakfast with wives, business meetings, court dates, doctor appointments, because when one of their own bleeds, especially one who bled for an innocent child, Nothing else exists in the universe except the need to be present. The response is immediate. Tank from the San Bernardino chapter leaves his granddaughter's birthday party, promising her he'll make it up to her, but knowing she'll understand when she's older that some things matter more than cake and presents. Razor from Orange County walks out of a client meeting worth $50,000, his Italian leather shoes clicking against marble floors, as he heads for his Harley without a word of explanation to the confused executives left behind. The rumble starts small, just a few engines warming up in parking lots and driveways, but it grows into something magnificent and terrifying. 200 motorcycles converging on Mercy General, like steel-winged angels, answering a prayer they didn't know had been whispered. The sound is biblical, Harley-Davidson V-twins growling in perfect harmony, polished steel blazing under the California sun, resembling armor blessed by some ancient god of loyalty and brotherhood. They come from every corner of Southern California, patches reading different chapters but hearts beating with the same rhythm. The same understanding that brotherhood doesn't end when you hang up your colors, it just changes shape, like water finding new channels to flow through. Hospital security guard Jerome Williams has worked emergency rooms for 23 years, has seen gang wars and family feuds, domestic violence and drug overdoses, but nothing has prepared him for this moment when the parking lot begins to fill with leather jackets bearing death's heads and flaming skulls. His radio crackles with panic from the front desk. "We got a situation here, Jerome. Looks like every biker in California just showed up." But there's no aggression in their movements, no threat in their formation, just an overwhelming sense of purpose as they arrange themselves in perfect rows, engines ticking as they cool, chrome pipes still warm enough to shimmer the air like desert mirages. Diesel approaches the main entrance with the measured stride of a man who has buried too many brothers, his features carved deep with concern, as he explains to the bewildered staff, "We're not here to cause problems. We're here to make sure nobody causes problems for Tombstone. He's family." Hours passed in vigil and worry, leather-clad sentries maintaining their silent watch through the long night. Dawn breaks over Mercy General like a blessing, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, while 200 motorcycles still gleam in the parking lot like mechanical prayers offered to the gods of healing. Thomas opens his eyes to find Maria sleeping in the chair beside his bed, her hand warm in his, her face peaceful for the first time since David died, and through his window, he can see them, his former brothers maintaining their vigil with the patience of men who understand that love sometimes means simply showing up and staying. The bullet missed his spine by millimeters, the doctors tell him, missed his heart by inches. But Thomas knows the real miracle happened in that split second when he chose to become a shield instead of a bystander, when he decided that Marcus's future mattered more than his own safety. The pain medication makes everything soft around the edges, but it can't dull the satisfaction that burns bright in his chest like a candle flame for once. He was fast enough, strong enough, present enough to save a child from the violence that claimed his own son. Carmen appears in the doorway, clutching Marcus's small hand, her eyes red with tears, sweet with the essence of gratitude, instead of grief for the first time in years. She's brought flowers from her neighbor's garden, bright marigolds that carry the warmth of sunshine and hope, and her voice breaks like waves against stone when she tries to speak. "Señor Rivera," she whispers, her words heavy with emotion that no language has adequate words for. "How can we ever thank you?" But Thomas just smiles, his voice rough with medication and emotion as he looks at Marcus alive, whole, held that luminous quality found only in rescued innocence. "You don't thank someone for doing what any father would do," he says, and the truth of it settles over the room like dust motes dancing in morning sunlight. Marcus steps forward, with a drawing clutched in his tiny fist. A picture of a superhero that looks remarkably like Thomas, cape billowing behind him as he flies through a sky filled with motorcycles and angels. "I drew you flying, Senor Angel," Marcus says, his voice soft as butterfly wings. And Thomas feels something heal inside his chest that has nothing to do with surgery or medicine. The symphony begins again around noon, motors growling to life one by one, with mechanical precision synchronizing with the rhythm of recovery and hope. The Hells Angels prepare to return to their scattered lives across 3 states, to wives who worry, children who need them, jobs that pay the bills, and responsibilities that don't pause for brotherhood, but they leave behind something more precious than protection. They leave behind the knowledge that in a world often defined by taking, there are still those willing to give everything for nothing more than the chance to stand between innocence and cruelty. Diesel stops by Thomas's room one last time, his eyes bright with unshed tears as he grips his former brother's uninjured hand. "You did good, Tombstone," he says, using the old road name with the reverence reserved for legends. David would be proud. The words hit Thomas like a physical blow, but it's the good kind of pain. The kind that means healing is happening from the inside out. The engines fade into the distance as thunder rolls away after a storm. But the silence they leave behind isn't empty. It's full of possibility, heavy with the promise that sometimes the most broken people are the ones who become the strongest shields, and sometimes saving one child is enough to save the world. Thomas closes his eyes and listens to Maria's gentle breathing, to the distant sounds of the hospital coming alive with another day, to the whispered conversations of nurses who will tell this story to their own families tonight. And he knows that David's death wasn't meaningless if it taught him how to recognize the exact moment when another child's life hung in the balance, and he had the power to tip the scales toward hope.